Stop asking. Start decreeing. That sentence is meant to land like a wake-up call. You have been taught to come before God with empty hands and trembling petitions, soft requests that collapse into the air the moment you walk out the door. But what if prayer can be more than pleading? What if prayer can be an authoritative voice that sets in motion the intelligence beyond the visible? A partnership where you bring plans and God provides wisdom, opportunity, and the unseen arrangement you need to carry them out. Hear me, this is not about treating God like a vending machine. It is not manipulation. It is not a formula that guarantees a certain dollar value or a guaranteed medical cure. It is about learning to present a clear, humble plan to the one who made the universe, to engage intentionally with the spirit of wisdom, what Napoleon Hill called the intelligence infinite, and to bring your own will, work, and obedience into alignment with that power. You will be asked to write, to feel, to declare, and to act. That combination changes how your life responds to you. Most people pray like spectators. They ask, then wait. They whisper wishes into the dark and then return to the same habits that produced the problem. That's like sending a blueprint to an architect and then refusing to meet when the architect asks questions. It's like giving a seed to a gardener and then refusing to water the soil. God moves on what you position in faith and on what you are willing to do. Listen to this diagnosis because it is urgent. Vague petitions produce vague outcomes. I want to be happy. I want to be blessed. God help me. Those are not bad prayers, they are incomplete strategies. A general who wins a battle gives explicit orders. An architect does not say, "Build me a house." The architect hands over the plan. If you want to change what shows up in your life, you must become the kind of person who speaks with clarity and takes responsibility for execution. Examples will make this concrete. Two people sit across from one another. Both pray. One says, "Lord, I want to prosper." The other writes, "Father, I come asking for a revenue increase of $10,000 per month within 8 months so I can hire 2 team members, pay down debt, and support our ministry. I will produce a revised offer, call 5 prospects daily, and meet with a mentor twice monthly." Which of those two is actually giving God something he can work with? Which one has a plan that intelligence can help execute? Metaphors are useful here. Think of your desire as a building project. Vague wishes are smoke, nothing solid to grasp. A detailed decree is the blueprint. Or think of your inner life as a radio. When the channel is fuzzy, you get static. When your prayer is precise and your heart is tuned, that radio catches an actual signal. Napoleon Hill wrote about tapping the intelligence infinite by commanding your thought life with clarity. We are translating that into Christian practice. You bring your plan, you submit it to God, you tune your heart to faith and gratitude, and you act on the clear nudges that follow. If you're ready to stop asking and start taking authority over your life in partnership with God, tap the like button. Stay with me. Now, let me show you the first and most decisive move. Write the decree. There is a practical, almost engineering-level way to put your request on paper. This is not mystical theater. It is the act of converting a nebulous hope into a clear directive that your mind, your network, and the intelligence beyond can respond to. Writing gives the request weight. It changes memory, it marks intention, it creates a physical contract between you and your conscience, between you and the spirit that you can return to, refine, and act upon. What to include when you write? Specific outcome. Give numbers, names, and dates where possible. I want to feel better becomes, I ask for energy and vitality sufficient for a consistent 45-minute workout 5 days a week by March 1st. I want financial breakthrough becomes, I seek $30,000 in cleared revenue within the next 9 months to eliminate my credit card debt and invest in equipment for the business. State the purpose. Say why you want it. Purpose directs passion. $30,000 to buy toys is different from $30,000 to free you to serve more people. Include stewardship language, how you will use what you receive. Declare the actions you will take. Commit to concrete behaviors. I will send 10 proposals a week. I will meet one mentor each month. I will save X%. This is not to manipulate results. It is to align your feet with the prayer. Include emotional detail. Name how it will feel. Peace, relief, freedom, laughter at the dinner table. Sensory detail matters. The smell of coffee at a new desk. The sound of your child's laughter in a debt-free home. These details anchor the imagination and the nervous system. Close with gratitude and submission. Say something like, if it is consistent with your will and by your wisdom and grace, I receive this. Thank you. This keeps the posture humble and avoids turning prayer into coercion. Here is a model decree you can copy and adapt. Notice the balance between faith-filled language and humility. Heavenly Father, I come to you with humility and hope. I ask that if it aligns with your will, you would open doors so that within the next 9 months, my business produces an additional $30,000 in cleared revenue. I intend to use these funds to pay down debt, invest in essential equipment, and free my family to serve you more fully. I will take the following steps. Revise my offer this week, reach out to 5 prospective clients each day, and meet with a trusted advisor twice a month. I trust you to guide my decisions and to provide unexpected opportunities. I thank you now for the wisdom, favor, and provision that make this possible. In Jesus' name, amen. Do not rush past that model. Rewrite it in your own voice. Be specific. Put a pen to paper. Use the present tense where it feels appropriate. I have, I am language, because the nervous system responds to present tense convictions. Yet, keep the humility clause. If it aligns with your will, or I submit this plan to your wisdom, are small phrases with big theological weight. They remind you that you are partnering, not pressuring. Now, where and how should you write it? Choose a dedicated place, a table where you will not be interrupted, a bedside desk, a coffee shop booth where you are decisive. The physical spot matters because your brain will learn to associate that environment with the act of decree. Use a real notebook or a clean, dedicated page. The tactile act of writing by hand signals intention to your body and your subconscious. If handwriting is difficult for you, type it, print it, and sign it. The point is to make it physical. Time it. Early morning is ideal. Your mind is fresh and less cluttered. But what matters most is consistency. Pick a time you can stick to daily, even if it's 5 minutes. Read it out loud once you've written it. The human voice is an instrument of authority. Speaking anchors the sentence in your physiology. A whispered line is not as effective as a clear, audible declaration. Sign and date it. Mark the moment. Signing is symbolic, but also psychological. It moves the request from thought into commitment. After you've written, the next decisive move is emotional alignment. Words on paper without feeling are like an architect's drawings left in cardboard, precious but dormant. You must charge your decree with feeling. Gratitude is the engine. Feeling as if the outcome is already true, without presumption but with conviction, creates a neurochemical environment that readies you to notice the opportunities that will come. A short guided cue you can practice immediately. Close your eyes, breathe deeply for 3 counts in and 5 counts out, and imagine one scene that will be normal once your decree is fulfilled. Not abstract emotion, name a moment. See the light in the room, hear a specific sound, smell something ordinary that will be part of that moment. Feel the relief in your chest. Stay there for 30 seconds. Then open your eyes and silently say thank you. That small ritual deposits a picture in your nervous system. It is not magical thinking. It is training your attention and mood. When you pair the written clarity of the decree with the felt reality of gratitude, your mind stops wobbling between hope and doubt. The more precise the language, the less room for internal sabotage. Vague statements invite confusion. Specific decrees invite design. Some will resist this and say, "Isn't this presumptuous? We are not to claim things as though they are ours." Right question. The posture matters. You are not stealing what belongs to God. You are not dictating terms. You are presenting a plan in faith, and you are offering to do your part. The humility clause allows for God's sovereignty. The boldness is in the submission. Give God a real plan and then be willing to follow where He leads. There is also a psychological reason for specificity. Your subconscious mind does not parse abstractions well. It takes patterns, examples, and sensory data and then acts as an internal GPS. If you tell the GPS somewhere warm, it will deliver you to a vague area. If you tell it 132 Willow Lane, it finds the door. The decree is an address. The emotional detail furnishes the landmarks. Let's pause on a common mistake: writing a decree with numbers but without behaviors. You might demand $10,000 by Christmas and then continue the same habits that produced yesterday's income. That is incongruent. A decree without aligned action is a prayer without feet. A general gives orders and moves his troops. A gardener plants and also tends the soil. If you truly intend to create a new reality, plan the daily small acts that will bring it about, and commit to them publicly, at least to yourself and to trusted counsel. This is where the mastermind concept becomes useful, but I will come back to that later. For now, know this: confidentiality matters. There is a cost to oversharing plans with casual critics. Dream thieves exist, people who reflexively diminish. Protect your plan until it begins to show fruit. That protection is not secrecy born of distrust of God. It is wisdom about who is allowed into the inner circle of implementation. Share with people who will add competence and courage, not with those who extract your energy. Before moving on to ritual repetition and the neurology of habits, before we talk about the daily cadence that cements a decree into your life, there is an intermediate step I want you to practice today: refine and declare. Refine. Take the model decree you wrote. Tighten the language. Delete words that water it down. Increased revenue becomes an additional $30,000 by the end of the 9th month. More time becomes an extra 6 hours of uninterrupted creative work per week. Declare. Read it aloud in your chosen place. Do this once now. Then, for the next 7 days, read it once in the morning and once in the evening. If you can read it out loud while touching the page, placing your hand on the paper, you create a sensory tie that makes the brain remember better. A caution: this is not a magic wand. You will not necessarily see overnight miracles. Many people quit after a week because nothing dramatic has happened. That is the place where faith is formed. The season of silence is not always absence. Often, it is the gestation where unseen adjustments are being made. Reframing this time frame matters. Do not quit early. Prepare to persist. If at this point you feel discomfort, skepticism, or even spiritual caution, welcome that feeling. It is normal. It means you are confronting old identities. I've never been that person. I am not worthy. What if I fail? Those are the guardians of the comfort zone. They will speak loudly in the first days. Your task is not to silence them by force, but to incrementally outwork them. Small acts of obedience weaken those guardians over time. One more practical detail about wording: use affirmative verbs. Say I have, I am, I steward, rather than I hope to, I want to. The brain responds to the grammar of possession. But again, balance it with faith language. I thank you, Lord, as I submit this plan to your wisdom. Now, let me keep you from a dangerous shortcut. There is a difference between imagination and delusion. A healthy imagination pictures the end results and then lists the steps. Delusion imagines outcomes but resists necessary effort and accountability. If your decree says you will launch a product, your daily work must show up. Research, calls, prototypes. Declaring without doing is pride disguised as faith. At this point, you should have a written decree in hand, dated and signed. You should have read it aloud at least once. You should have done the 30-second visualization and offered a simple thank you in advance. These three acts, writing, speaking, feeling, are the tripod that holds your intention steady. What happens next is where the tension deepens. People expect an immediate sign. They look for fireworks. More often, the world offers a whisper, a new idea, a chance conversation, an unexpected email. Those whispers are the intelligence infinite responding, but they require your readiness. If you have not prepared your habits, you will miss the whisper or hesitate when action is required. This is where the bridge between the spiritual command and the physical result lives: inspired action. You will feel nudges, sometimes as a simple thought, sometimes as a persistent irritation that will not let you rest. Treat those nudges with immediate obedience. Hesitation trains you to stay small. Before I move into the practicalities of daily ritual and the neurology that makes repetition effective, pause and ask yourself, are you willing to be the person who does what the decree demands? Are you prepared to show up when the quiet prompt arrives? Because the method is simple, but it is not easy. It requires courage, discipline, and humility. Consider the gardener metaphor one more time. You do not plant and then sit by the pot waiting for a miracle. You water, you remove pests, you rotate the soil, you check the light. The spiritual work is the planting and the tuning of attention. The practical work is the tending. Both are necessary. In scripture terms, faith without works is dead. This approach refuses to divorce prayer from practical obedience. You ask clearly, you align emotionally, you repeat with discipline, you take immediate steps when God's wisdom nudges you, you protect the plan, and you keep going through the quiet months. Now, if you have written your decree and you are ready, there is one more preparatory move before the daily ritual begins. Commit to a 7-day experiment. For the next 7 mornings and 7 evenings, read your decree out loud. Spend 30 seconds in the visualization and write one small action you will do today to move toward the decree. That action should be tiny. Call one person, send one email, research one simple thing. The purpose is to build the muscle of daily obedience. When you do this experiment, keep a log. It can be 2 columns on a page, declaration and action. At the end of 7 days, review the log. Did ideas begin to show up? Did certain tasks become easier? Did your mood stabilize? This log is evidence. It trains your spirit to notice patterns and reduces the temptation to quit after a single silent week. I will pause here because the next stage, how to repeat the decree as ritual, how to anchor it neurologically, and how to interpret the inevitable setbacks, deserves the same careful attention we've given to writing and initial alignment. The way you build repetition into your day and the posture you maintain through silence and apparent failure will determine whether your decree becomes a blueprint or a forgotten scrap. But before we step into those mechanics, I want to leave you with a precise, brief script you can use tonight. Make it your starting point. Write it, read it, feel it. Tonight's script. 1. Sit in a quiet place, breathe slowly 3 times. Open your decree. 2. Read aloud the entire decree you wrote, distinctly and audibly. 3. Close your eyes. Hold one scene from that decree for 30 seconds. Notice a detail, light, smell, sound. Feel the gratitude. 4. Say silently, Lord, I place this plan in your hands. If it aligns with your will, bring it forth. Then say, thank you. 5. Write one small action you will do tomorrow to advance the plan. Do this for 7 nights. Do not be discouraged by silence. Prepare for the possibility of discomfort. You are clearing out an old identity. That clearing can look like loss, confusion, or delay. It is not failure by default. In the next segment, we will build the ritual, how to repeat without losing integrity, how to use your voice as an anchor, how to create environmental hygiene so your senses stay tuned, and how to act with discernment when inspiration arrives. We will also talk through the most common setbacks and the mental scripts that preserve your confidence when things don't immediately rearrange themselves. For now, take a breath. You have done the hardest part. You have begun to speak with intention. You have moved from a wish to a written, signed plan. That alone shifts the field. Hold that posture until we go deeper. Now we move into the mechanics that turn that written page into lived reality. The next phase is simple in principle and demanding in practice. Repetition as ritual, voice as anchor, environment as support, and action as immediate extension of the whisper. If you want to speak to God and create the reality you desire, you must learn to make the declaration steady enough to be heard not only by your inner life, but by the circumstances around you. That steadiness is built by repetition that is intentional, embodied, and disciplined. Make the daily ritual sacred but short. You don't need an hour, you need consistency. Each morning, within the first hour after waking, sit in your chosen place, open the page, and read your decree aloud. Read it as if you are delivering instructions to a trusted general. Do not mumble. Your voice carries a frequency that the body and the mind register. Say the names, the numbers, the dates, and the small actions you committed to. Then perform the 30-second visualization we practiced. See a single scene. Notice one sound and one smell. Feel the gratitude in your chest and utter one brief thank you. Before you end, write one small task for the day, one tiny action that, when compounded, becomes momentum. In the evening, repeat the reading and the visualization in a shorter form and log what you did. This morning-evening loop establishes rhythm, and rhythm rewires the nervous system. The voice is not incidental. When you speak aloud, you generate a physiological shift. Breathing deepens, pitch changes, and the brain reinforces the message through auditory feedback. Use that to your advantage. At first, your voice may shake. That is normal. As you persist, speaking will become steadier because your body will start to accept the new narrative as plausible. Use present tense language where possible. I am producing. I steward. I have moved. Because present tense creates the illusion that primes behavior. But always close with your humility clause, a sentence that places the plan in God's hands, such as, if it aligns with your will, I receive this. That small phrase is theological ballast. It prevents you from turning faith into entitlement. You are declaring and you are submitting simultaneously. Now, a word about the neurology of repetition. The brain is a pattern-making organ. Every time you read your decree aloud, you are strengthening a neural pathway. The repetition doesn't just reinforce a desire. It shifts the default settings of attention. Instead of scanning for problems, your brain begins to scan for opportunities that match the decree. That is why specificity matters. Concrete images and numbers provide clear templates that the mind can notice in the chaos of daily life. Without specificity, your attention will remain scattered. The daily ritual is the signal that tells your subconscious, this is what we are building. Over weeks and months, small nudges, an unexpected email, a casual introduction, a new idea, will begin to line up with your declared shape. The moment you notice a nudge, act quickly. Hesitation dissipates momentum. Acting on the whisper is where faith becomes fruitful labor. These whispers rarely arrive as elaborate blueprints. Most often, they are small, sensible steps. Make a phone call, send an email, open a conversation that feels awkward. Read a book chapter, test a pricing idea, visit a new room in your community. The person who moves on small nudges becomes the person who is available when larger doors open. Obedience trains readiness. If you practice immediate action on plausible, low-cost prompts, you build a reputation inside yourself and around you as someone who follows through. That reputation will draw collaborators, and collaborators are how the intelligence infinite often works in the world. You must also become skilled at discernment. Not every idea is a sacred command. Some impulses are fear dressed in optimism. Others are vanity masquerading as destiny. Test the whisper against practical criteria. Does this idea align with the written decree? Does it move you toward the stated purpose? Is it morally clear? Does it require a modest first step that you can complete in short order? If it passes those tests, move. If it seems grand but lacks alignment, place it in a maybe file and return to your decree and your mentor for counsel. The goal is not reckless obedience, it is disciplined responsiveness. Protection of the plan is a strategic grace. Oversharing invites erosion. There are people who, intentionally or not, will diminish what you intend. Friends who gossip, skeptics who care too much, environments that eclipse courage with cynicism. Keep the core of your decree within a small circle. 1 or 2 trusted advisors, a spiritual mentor, a competent peer or two who can add skills and courage. This is the practical mastermind. A mastermind is not merely cheerleading, it is a covenant of competence. Choose people who have both character and capacity. Ask for accountability, not approval. Let them see your actions and your log. Let them challenge your excuses and celebrate your small wins. A protective circle guards energy and amplifies wisdom. Secrecy, properly practiced, should not become cowardice. There is a difference between hiding from helpful critique and shielding from energy-sapping doubt. Do not broadcast the plan to anyone who will dilute your focus. When you choose a mastermind, define boundaries. What will be shared, how feedback will be given, and how confidentiality will be maintained. The goal is to cultivate a space of brave honesty, not fragile praise. Napoleon Hill observed that a handful of determined minds working in harmony will collapse obstacles. In Christian practice, that harmony is undergirded by prayer, discernment, and mutual submission to God's wisdom. Environmental hygiene is equally practical. Your senses consume story, tone, and expectation. If your audio-visual diet is full of scarcity narratives, cynicism, or constant outrage, your emotional baseline will follow. Guard what you watch, what you read, and the company you keep. Replace doom scrolling with short, focused inputs that feed possibility and skill. A chapter from a book that instructs, a sermon that challenges grace and diligence, a podcast that models execution, a news source that is factual and concise. Limit exposure to voices that narrate failure as inevitable. That is not denial, it is stewardship of attention. Additionally, curate your physical spaces. A cluttered desk produces cluttered ideas. A tidy, intentional environment communicates permission to the mind to create order. Now, let's prepare for the inevitable season of silence and setbacks. This is where many well-intended people fail. They declare, they do the initial work, and when the visible sign does not appear quickly, they interpret silence as a verdict. That interpretation is usually false. In biological processes, gestation is not visible from the outside. A farmer does not see the root work the moment a seed is planted. Yet the unseen work is massive. Similarly, when you present a clear plan to God and then align your actions, there will be a period where you perceive little movement. Use that time to double down on habits, not to doubt your call. Reframing setbacks is a spiritual discipline. When a door closes or an offer falls through, resist the first narrative that says, "This proves I guessed wrong." Instead, ask, "What is this clearing?" Sometimes a loss removes a small success that would have limited a larger alignment. A deal that collapses can free your time for a better partnership. A rejection can force a pivot that ultimately creates a more durable foundation. The script you say in those moments matters. Replace catastrophic language with interpretive curiosity. What is happening beneath the surface? How am I being prepared? This posture preserves courage and opens you to learning. When you encounter a setback, respond with a short, clear script. Breathe. Name the disappointment out loud with a single sentence. This hurts, and I will reframe it. Then list 3 small next moves. No grand strategies, practical steps. Next, check your log. Did you act on the last whisper? Did you move in small increments? If not, recommit. If you did, ask your mastermind for perspective. Usually, the emotional charge will pass, and you will see the episode as fuel, not a verdict. The law of gestation also prescribes patience with momentum. Many projects require a 9-month season of quiet construction. That does not mean you sit passively. It means you work steadily within your discipline while you trust that the intelligence beyond the visible is arranging factors you cannot see. Patience here is not resignation, it is proactive endurance. Keep the daily readings, keep the small actions. Maintain the environmental hygiene. Do not let a slow timeline be an excuse to return to old habits. Identity shift is where the process moves from externals to essence. You cannot keep saying you want a different life while acting like your old self. The decree demands internal congruence. To change results, you must change your posture, speech, habits, circle, and generosity. Begin with small, symbolic acts that communicate the new identity to your nervous system and to the people around you. Alter your posture when you speak about the project. Speak with authority, not arrogance, but with clarity. Change small habits that signal your new priorities. Wake 30 minutes earlier to do focused work. Remove one toxic relationship that consumes energy. Allocate a modest, consistent portion of resources to the project, even if it requires temporary austerity. These behaviors matter more than grand pronouncements. Generosity is a surprising lever. When you shift your patterns to include giving, time, expertise, money, you internalize abundance. Generosity acts as a counterweight to fear. It says, I trust enough in provision to share before the overflow. That posture aligns you with a long history of faith leaders who walked in both courage and stewardship. Do not give in reckless ways. Give in ways that reflect your values and that fit your season. Even symbolic generosity, a small donation to someone in need, free time spent mentoring, signals identity more powerfully than any mantra. Practice living as if in concrete, sober ways. If your decree is to have an extra 6 hours of creative work per week, create systems that protect those hours. Block them on your calendar, outsource a small task that consumes time, and let close friends know you are not available during those slots unless urgent. If your decree involves producing $30,000 in revenue, begin to think and act like someone who runs a revenue-generating enterprise. Send professional proposals, improve your invoicing, adopt simple metrics to track progress. These are not counterfeit acts. They are the scaffolding of a new identity. Now, let's discuss the crucial role of a mastermind in more detail. A mastermind is a small, trusted band whose purpose is to multiply competence and courage. It should be no more than 3 to 5 people for intimacy and accountability. These members should hold different strengths. One might be a financier, another a strategist, a third a spiritual mentor who helps you stay theologically grounded. Meet regularly and commit to truth-telling. Have an agenda that includes a short status update, a pressing problem, and a request for specific help. Use your mastermind as a filter for actions. Before you leap into an idea, run it by them for a quick sanity check. The right mastermind doesn't waste time with cheerleading. It presses you on alignment and execution. Be careful whom you choose. Avoid people who are primarily negative or who compete with you in ways that breed envy. Choose people who are at once credible and kind, honest and tender. If you cannot find such partners in your immediate circle, consider joining a small group or paid community where competence and confidentiality are explicit values. The investment in a wise circle is often more productive than 100 hours of solo effort. As you progress, keep evidence. Maintain a simple log of declarations, actions, whispers, and outcomes. This record will be your morale resource in lean seasons. Evidence loosens the grip of discouragement. It answers the inner question, have I really changed anything? When you look back 6 months later, you should be able to see patterns that affirm your direction, even if the final outcomes are still in process. This is how trust is built, not by magic, but by a chain of small, observable events. Now let us address the temptation to perform spirituality as a show. There is a subtle danger in making declarations public before there is foundation. Public declarations can be powerful, but only when they are true to an internal reality. If you shout your plan before you have committed to the daily work, you risk becoming dependent on external applause instead of internal discipline. Make public commitments when you are already doing the private work. When the time is right, testimony is a tool to encourage others and to amplify momentum. Until then, protect the plan. A few practical details that many miss but that make a real difference. Sign and date every revision of your decree. Revisions are not backtracking, they are learning. When you change a number or a timeline, annotate why. That habit prevents shame and instead converts change into evidence of growth. Second, use sensory anchors. When you read your decree, touch a ring, a small stone, or the corner of the page. That tactile cue will speed recall and reduce resistance. Third, create a short audio recording of yourself reading the decree and listen to it once daily while you commute or do repetitive work. Hearing your own conviction in a different context helps the message integrate into ordinary life. Now, how do you manage inner critics and spiritual caution? Both are necessary companions. The critical voice protects you from foolishness. Spiritual caution keeps you humble. Neither should become a chain. When doubt arises, use a rapid response practice. Name the doubt, reframe it, and return to evidence. For example, if the thought, "Who are you to claim this?" surfaces, answer with a short factual list. I have prepared through X, I have acted by Y, God has already given Z. This response is neither arrogance nor denial. It is the sober reorientation of attention. Let us return to the language of partnership with God using Napoleon Hill's phrase, intelligence infinite, as a bridge. When you speak your decree, say to God with humility, Lord, I submit this plan to your intelligence. If it aligns with your wisdom, make a way. That language keeps the posture right. You are inviting the divine into your work, not attempting to replace God's will with your will. It keeps you honest and preserves theological sanity. It also relieves you of the burden of outcome. When you have done your part and released the request with prayerful submission, you can rest while the intelligence beyond the visible arranges factors you cannot see. The art of letting go is as strategic as the art of doing. After months of steady ritual and faithful action, you will reach a season where you must release anxious attachment to the outcome. Letting go is not indifference. It is an act of trust that the visible will be organized through unseen means. Practically, letting go looks like this. You stop compulsively refreshing inboxes, you cease to obsess over daily metrics, and you return to the rhythm rather than the scoreboard. During this phase, your daily ritual becomes a stabilizer rather than a scoreboard. You read, you act, and you rest. Rest, counterintuitively, is an executive skill. It preserves clarity and resilience. When breakthrough does come, it rarely appears as fireworks. Often it arrives as a convergence of ordinary things. A timely conversation, a small loan, a corrected assumption, or an overlooked connection. When that convergence happens, you will recognize it because patterns that were previously isolated will begin to speak to each other. Your log will show a sequence. Do not allow surprise to destabilize you. Treat it as confirmation and accelerate appropriately. Celebrate modestly, adjust your plans, and update your decree if necessary to reflect new clarity. Now, let us practice a fuller weekly cadence you can adopt. On Sunday evening, review the week's log and adjust the micro actions for the next week. On Monday morning, read the decree aloud, perform the visualization, set the first small action, and call one person if relevant. Each evening, write one sentence about what moved your attention. At the end of the month, review progress with your mastermind and recalibrate. This weekly/monthly rhythm prevents drift and keeps you learning fast. I will give you 2 short practical examples of inspired action to make this concrete. Imagine you have declared a revenue increase and one morning you feel an unusual nudge to email an old client with a simple idea. Even if fear says they might say no, the correct response is to send the email. Often, the reaction you fear is not what materializes. In another case, you may feel prompted to attend an event that seems outside your comfort zone. Go. The room will contain people and conversations that cannot be simulated online. Small external moves like these compound into real advantage. A final spiritual and strategic care. Do not neglect rest and Sabbath rhythm. The human soul is not a machine to be wound indefinitely. Regular rest windows, daily, weekly, and seasonally, preserve perspective. Sabbath is not passive laziness. It is a faith practice that acknowledges God's sovereignty and recalibrates desire. It prevents hustle from masquerading as holiness. As we draw toward a close, understand that this is not a brief experiment, but a formation process. The kind of life you desire will require disciplined repetition, occasional recalibration, wise alliances, and humility before the mystery of providence. You will be tested. You will be tempted to revert to old patterns of waiting and whispering. Each time that temptation surfaces, return to the tripod, your written decree, the felt gratitude, and one small obedient action. Those 3 together are remarkably hard to resist once you have practiced them long enough. Now stand with me in a short, clear communal declaration. This is not a magic incantation. It is an act of obedience. We speak the truth we are asking God to help align. If you are ready to commit today, if you have signed a decree, if you will practice the 7-day experiment, and if you intend to steward your actions, I invite you to make this simple statement where others can see it. Type the phrase below into the comments, not as a boast, but as a covenantal marker. Type with humility, with readiness, and with trust. Type, "It is done." Say it aloud now in your quiet place. Lord, I place this plan in your hands. If it aligns with your will, bring it forth. I will do my part, and I thank you now for the wisdom and the opportunities to come. Then breathe. Release the urgency that wants you to control the timing. Continue your daily readings. Continue your small acts. Continue protecting your energy and choosing your company well. If you are willing to do this work, write "It is done" in the comments now, and let this community bear witness to your step. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you can return and be strengthened by similar teaching. Share this video with one person who needs a practical, faithful method to move from vague petitions to strategic partnership with God. Speak to God. Create the reality you desire. Invite the intelligence infinite into your plan. Write clearly, feel deeply, repeat faithfully, act immediately, protect wisely, and then let the work, visible and invisible, complete its course. The process asks for courage, discipline, and surrender. When those 3 meet, reality begins to rearrange itself around the person you are becoming. It is done.